It's your girl Mima, and we're here to do an emotional well-being video with Summer Careers Festival for Life Proof. So we're just going to talk about, emotional well-being, how to deal with it, what it is, all of that. Here to join me is Adante.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Mima. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. Even more better. I'm just glad to be here. To be fair, I've heard so much about the group and the stuff that Life Proof and also the Summer Career Festival. The kind of work that they do. So I'm just grateful and privileged to kind of be here today. So thank you. Where do we start? Okay, so we're going to talk about emotional well-being today, and just touch on it and how it kind of relates to young people, and also in terms of how it relates to them in their everyday life, personal life, and then also how it would affect their career choices or job opportunities, things like that. Now, to begin with, where do I start? I've just joined Life Proof and Heal Hub. So let's begin. What do we mean by emotional well-being? Well, firstly, it's the ability to practice stress management techniques, be resilient, and generate emotions that lead to good feelings. And that's a definition from Psychology Today. I think for me, the whole thing about emotional well-being is the fact that it's different to mental health, and it's a part of how you manage the stress, how you manage your emotional well-being, more so than mental health, which is normally conditions that are caused by biological or environmental factors. So to begin with, how is your emotional well-being, or how do you find how do you find your own emotional well-being, and how do you cope?
It's really crazy. It's really, really crazy. I think that it's obviously very different with everyone, but for me, I say time. Like time, because I have a thing, and I've met a few people who have the same situation where we know that something's wrong with us, whether it's mental or emotional, and we probably do need to go to therapy or talk to someone about it or seek help. But then we feel like by doing so, we finally get the label of what it is. Oh, is it anxiety? Is it bipolar? Is it this? Is it that? And then because we don't want to have that label, we try and be like, I can deal with it by myself. And sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work. So for me, something that happened very recently to kind of go with this conversation is great, is that literally 2 nights ago, I had a whole breakdown, tears and everything. And I just felt like, because my birthday is coming up in a few days, 8 days from now. I'm like, thank you. I made it to 20. But I feel like every year, this is like a very annual thing. Closer to my birthday, I try and look at my life and be like, what have I achieved so far? Do you get me? What have I done? And then I feel like I've done nothing because of social media and how everything's out there. I start to say to myself, well, I'm going to be 20 in a few days and I've done nothing to show for it. So and so's done that. So and so's done that. My friend's done that. And it kind of plays with your emotional state and how you view yourself. And it could affect you positively, because sometimes it does affect me positively, where I'm like, yes, my friend's done that. I can do that. I can do better. I can, we can all be in the circle. We can all win together. And sometimes it might affect me negatively, where I'm like, maybe success is not for me, or I can never do this. I can never achieve that. And it's just a thing that happens. So as a solution, by myself, I went and I got rid of all my social media platforms. I've removed it from my
You put
phone.
some-
So I've removed, like, I deleted my Snapchat account. I removed the Instagram app from my phone because I need Instagram for work and everything. But for me to use it, I need to go on my laptop and log into it. But I don't have
Yeah.
the app, because the app is quickly accessible compared to going onto Google, logging in, and all of that. So I've literally taken myself out of, like, seeing everything that's going on in everyone's lives to just focus on what's going on in mine. And I feel like for me, the past 24 hours has been more
Yeah.
productive and more positive compared to when I had Snapchat and I see my friend's story and she's out clubbing or she's out at a fancy restaurant and I'm, not. I can't fund myself to do that. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's helped me 24 hours and the results are quite good. That's where my emotional well-being is right now. Like, taking time off, it works for me.
And just being able to just being able to identify and be aware, because being self-aware, the fact that you understood that something's not right here, I don't feel good within myself. Those are the things that a lot of other young people, a lot of people in general, don't have that ability to be able to detect when it is that I don't feel like myself. So leading on from that, if we could just go to the next page. What might be, you mentioned a few things like what the certain things that could actually stop us from feeling emotionally well. And social media was one of them, and we've got it on there, the consumption of visual media and YouTube and TikTok and, all these platforms. So would you say that for young people, that's something that is also contributing to their mental health and their emotional well-being in your own, obviously in your own experience, but would you say it's quite a general thing amongst young people?
Definitely. I feel like social media is as negative as it is positive. And I feel like it just depends on where you are at when you're viewing it. If you're already having a really bad day and, you don't feel good in your body, or you're already in a bad negative mental state, going on social media is not gonna, the chances that it's going to uplift you, it's a
Very
bit,
slim.
it's a bit, it's a bit of a weird one. So yeah, social media definitely plays a huge role in how a person can view themselves or move forward from a situation or move.
Totally. And then another thing that I'll point out, which I thought was fantastic that you did, was the fact that you took control over the situation with regards to the social media and taking yourself away from something that was obviously contributing to how you were feeling. And I think that's something else that, as humans, as individuals, we need to do more of. Try not to sweat the small things. You know what I mean? And try to kind of rein in the control and actually think about the things that we do have control over, like switching off our social medias, or, not listening or watching that blog on YouTube today, or, not meeting up with that friend today that's going to take us somewhere else. I think those are good key points for young people and good strategies to have. In terms of being able to control your your emotional well-being. There's another one on there, negative self-talk. So that was the thing that you was talking about earlier as well, where you, sometimes we tend to kind of fall into this, when we start to doubt our own judgments and doubt our abilities and things like that. I think that's something else that you also showed in the little talk that you did there, that basically when we have these negative thoughts and we are talking to ourselves negatively, it's almost as though we need prompting to switch the mood, maybe, or to even switch the mood, or even counteract it with a positive. So for example, if today I wake up and I say I don't feel like I can accomplish this today, the positive way of looking at it will be, but tomorrow's another day. And today I'm going to rest my mental, rest myself, rest my mind. And then tomorrow I'm going to look at it again. So that may be a way as well. The other one on there, we have isolating ourselves from peers and our groups. Isolating ourselves from our friends and our peer groups is also a way of stopping us from feeling emotionally well. Sometimes, we switch off. A friend's trying to get through to you on the weekend, and you're in this feeling of, I don't want to talk to nobody, if you know what I mean. And then all of a sudden, you feel kind of bombarded with everybody wanting to ask you to go out. Can you hear me, Mima? Sorry.
I can. Laura, is it possible to pause it just for 2 minutes?
Yeah. Hi, so as we were saying, just talking about another factor that could contribute to us stopping feeling emotionally well is isolating ourselves from peer groups and friends, which sometimes we think it's helping us. And as Mima was saying earlier, sometimes when we're on social media or in the WhatsApp groups, Snapchat groups, whatever it is, and all your friends are doing things, going out, they just seem to be getting on with life and really engaging, socially with everybody. But for some reason, or for whatever reason, you don't feel as though you can, or you're not in the right headspace. And I think sometimes it's at those moments that you have to kind of almost push yourself. So even, the first week that you don't want to go out, that's fine. But if that's continuing and you're going, say, 2-3 weeks without socializing and interacting with your peer groups and your friends, I think it becomes worrying. They're going to get worried. And I think that's when you have to kind of force yourself almost to start to interact and, just go out for a night, a few hours maybe, and just to kind of recapture that friendship and that support that you may be thinking that isn't really there when it actually is. The other one is, another factor could be not taking time for self-care, giving ourselves time to pamper ourselves, take that time out that you really deserve. And as Jemima was saying earlier, being worried what others are actually doing sometimes can actually affect our own path and our own focus. And so you feel as though you're on a treadmill almost, trying to catch up with everybody else when you really don't have to. Sometimes you just need time and to be still. Another contributing factor stopping us from feeling emotionally well could be sometimes we need to avoid kind of dealing with the problems when we're actually in a manic state of mind, not manic, but in a stressed mindset. So for example, when, I don't know, trying to think of an example. Even kind of.
I've got one. I've actually got one. My own story, basically. So I applied to go to uni. Like, I got into the uni there, my first pick, and they accepted me for an unconditional. I got into uni and everything, and the issue was that because of lockdown, it was really difficult to like communicate, and because it was my first year, I didn't really know how to go about the whole student finance thing, and I feel like I might have made a few errors along the way, which delayed my whole finance, me getting my finance and everything. And because I wouldn't say I'm not a confrontational person, but I know that if it's going to stress me long term, I kind of procrastinate dealing with the issue. So I try and avoid it. I'd be like, well, I did call them yesterday, so I am dealing with it, but I know that I should be calling them every single day if I'm actually dealing with it. So so it's just the whole issue. It was just all stressful. I had to move back home. I have to call them on a daily basis and check the progress of the document. and have to send and like print out, and the whole thing is just like, I know it's gonna cause me stress and grief because I want it, I want it to go from A to Z, like just be a simple process, but I know it's not. So I try and avoid and try and make excuses for like, well, they're probably not open at this time, or but I know that you can actually do it. You try and pat yourself on the back when you know that you're doing the wrong thing. So yeah, I get it.
I totally get it. I totally get that. And being a parent, a daughter that's on her second year of applying for like student finance and stuff like that, I totally get it, seriously, because I thought it was just as plain sailing, straightforward thing. And you do have to set, once you start, once you put in the application, you have to be almost prepared that you're going to get some stress. You're going to have to start digging into, documents that you don't even remember where you've placed them, you know what I mean? But it's that kind of stress to a point, though. It's, you know what I mean? And once you've, as you said, you've kind of processed what you have to deal with, and that at the end of the day, it is going to cause you a bit of stress. You can deal with that because it's not a long-term thing. It's just for a moment. So that is totally fine in that sense, I think in a way, what I'm trying to say, when it comes to avoiding dealing with stress dealing with problems when you're stressed, it's more trying to make rational decisions and making decisions that may affect your future. Like, for example, if you was in a stressed state of mind and you were applying for uni, for example, and you weren't sure of what course you wanted to take, or you weren't sure of where you wanted to go to uni, that in itself, before you've even applied, whilst you're applying, if you haven't thought of those things, those are the things that are going to cause you more stress, because you're not going to know which way to go. It's going to put you in a situation where you're going to be vulnerable, and you're going to almost be led rather than you leading what you want, if that makes sense. So there's times to kind of deal with problems when you're stressed because you've got no choice. You know what I mean? A flooded, a leak in the kitchen or whatever, as much as you don't want to deal with it, you've got to deal with it there and then because it becomes a bigger issue. So it's just a little I can't even say the word now, but moving on from there. And if we move to the next PowerPoint, and we can actually try and look at ways to work towards emotional well-being. So obviously, for those that don't have what you have, Jemima, because you are very self-aware, so I salute you for that. Just being self-aware and understanding what you're feeling and what triggered it, or what triggers your emotions, I think is a big part. Would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely a big thing. I feel like also my mom and dad always say something like, they're like, you could try and lie to the world, but you will always know the truth. Do you get what I mean? You would always know the truth. So you can try and fool everyone that you're okay. You can't. And that you're getting through it, you can deal with it, but deep down you will always know the truth. So like, you can try and tell yourself that this thing isn't affecting me because you don't want anyone to know, but when you're sitting alone with nobody around, you know that one thing that person said is definitely affecting the way you see yourself. So yes, being able to walk out of like lying, I think is it deniability or something, I don't know, but it's like walking out of the phase of denial and stop, just being like, okay, I'm human, I am affected by what they said.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to your insecurities and everything, that's definitely a thing. You need to be more, I feel like a lot of people, I think maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe because we watch, again, it's another social media thing where you see all these celebrities and you never think, oh, wow. Okay, for example, perfect example would be Will Smith and Jada Smith. We all look at that and we're like, that's a perfect couple. That's a perfect couple. And then the entanglement incident comes out, and, people are like, what's so perfect about that couple? And it's just like, we all forget that we're all human beings at the end of the day. So nobody's perfect. We all have those little flaws. It's being able to like be like, yes, I have this issue. Because until you're able to, you know, admit it to yourself, you won't allow yourself to deal with it.
And again, that is that, just having that, moving on to the next little bullet point, the self-management, that is where you're actually in control, if you know what I mean. Because at the end of the day, as you said, we're only human. We can only be who we are, you know. And I think the more that as a society, and it's what Heal Hub and Life Proof and all that promotes, is to be unique, and, you know, be unique in your uniqueness, you know who you are. And I think sometimes understanding your own personality, you know, I'm an extrovert when I'm on stage or when I'm performing, but in my everyday personal life, I'm quite introvert. I like my own company. I like to kind of deal with things that are going to promote my well-being and others, you know, around me, friends and family. Anything that's going to make them feel good. Those are the kind of things that when I'm on my own, I'm kind of trying to work out, oh, what can I do next or whatever, you know. So those are the things that I think we need to take into account. Our personalities are not all going to be the same. And understanding that personality, and also the fact of just accepting who you are. You know, you don't have to be, you know, you use Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, for example. We're not all going to have their lives, and guarantee, for many of us, we're not even going to come close to a part of that life. But what you can have is the best life that you could, that you've you know, driven and thrived and worked hard for. You can have the best of that and be successful in your own uniqueness. And I think that's what we all, as a society, as a community, as humanity, we need to push that more, that our vulnerabilities doesn't make us lesser than, you know, you know, those vulnerabilities makes us better and unique, because it gives us empathy and compassion for others. So yeah, moving on to the next little bullet point, by as we were just saying with the self-management, the more that you're able to self-manage and control what you're thinking, what you're being influenced by, what you're even contributing to, because that's also another big factor. You know, it just makes you more resilient. It really does. And it just helps you to bounce back and face so many more challenges. And I think, well, in fact, let me turn it back to you. As young people, would you say that young people in your, you know, in your peers and people you've come into contact with, would you say they're more resilient now than, say, I don't know if you've got any siblings or probably even your mum, you know, in her time growing up? Would you say that the young people are more resilient now to back then? Or, you know?
To be fair, like, because now I've got a timeline of my mom and dad, myself, and, for example, my little sister, because we're all so very different. So my parents, when they were my age or like at their time, there was no social media whatsoever. There was like newspapers and all of that, but it was very like only the more privileged would have, you know, the chance to be exposed to that. So I feel like, in a sense, they have a very, very moral-based lifestyle. Like, it's all based on like morals, religion, and all of that, really strong and well-based and founded in that. And then you'd have my generation, my group of friends, and my, you know, siblings and cousins that are like within my age range, where we were literally there growing up when YouTube first came out and all of that, and Instagram and Facebook, being exposed to all of that. And slowly, I wasn't allowed to have social media until I was 18. And at first, going through all of it, it made me really I saw my friends and I'd be like, oh, I wish I could, I wish I could. But then it set me apart from my friends because, as you can tell, I can be very self-aware, and because I really took quite a lot of time to work on myself and build the idea of who I wanted to be. And I didn't have Instagram. Do you get me? I didn't have all of those things. For 18 years, it was just, me. And although I watched TV, it's a movie. I know it's a movie. I know she was put makeup to look like that for that character. Compared to when you're watching her Instagram when she's chilling in her kitchen or whatnot and listening to all, I wasn't really keeping up the drama. I was more focused on the real world and what was happening right in front of me. So that was very different. And then looking at my little sister, who now has, TikTok, YouTube, everything she's only 12. And I can try and make, for example, I can watch Family Guy. And I'm thinking at her age, I would not understand half the jokes that were being made. She definitely gets them. And I'm like, I feel like social media educates you about the positive and the negative things as well. Like, I feel like when I was young, I definitely needed to be sat down and have the talk when it comes to, let's say, sexual intercourse, periods, LGBT, all of those things. You'd have to, like, racism, all of that. I'd need to have a talk compared to the younger generation now, where you don't need to talk to them about it. They are curious and they have all the answers literally at the tip of their fingers, which also goes into their, emotional being of themselves, because you wonder, like, I'd sit here and I always say, I don't support segregation of any sort. So it's like, I sit here and I've got a very diverse range of, like, friends. So when I have the whole BLM thing was going on, I was more interested in hearing what my friends, my white friends are saying, my Asian friends are saying. Because yes, everybody knows Black lives, every life matters, to be fair. But in this instant, it was the Black lives. But I was more interested of understanding a white person's perspective of the situation. And that's just the person that I am, because it helped my emotions sit in a sense where I wasn't only feeling defensive that, oh, well, I need to protect my own, but more so, we're all human beings. How are you feeling when you're walking in the street and someone's instantly judging you as racist simply for the color of your skin? They don't know your name. They don't know that your partner is Black. Your kids are mixed. They have no idea. They just see you as a white woman shopping. And exactly. So it's quite interesting. I feel like, definitely the timelines are very different. My mom could be, like, really old school with certain things, and I could be like, I'm, like, literally at the edge, and I always want to, like, compare the two and, like, point out the differences and question the mentality and everything. And my little sister, she's like, well, TikTok says. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting. I wouldn't know what that.
Sorry to cut you, Jemima. So with that, would you say that your mom's generation was more resilient, or your younger sister's generation now? The younger generation are more resilient. Which one? Or is there a difference?
I feel like it falls down on circumstance of the actual situation, but because it's a fair thing, you would find people in my mom's generation that wouldn't be able to cope with certain things, and you'd find others in a younger generation that wouldn't be able. I feel like it all depends on someone's background. Someone's background as to how you will deal with a certain situation. But I feel like the younger generation is quite resilient when it comes to, like, probably dealing with social media things, because it's going to happen, or that and that. And then the older generation, they're more resilient with real life issues. If that makes sense, like real life actual issues.
That's where I think I totally agree with that. And I feel that I think the older generation, or the generation before yourself kind of thing, they would have had to you know, having this information at your fingertips, it wasn't really there. So therefore, somebody that's going through a mental health issue or going through a bereavement, you know what I mean, or going through the loss of a job or something, they wouldn't really be able to tap into anybody, to any information as quickly as we can now, just to know, okay, I can contact Heal Hub to get some, you know, some help with mental health, or I can contact, I don't know, I can't even think now, but you know what I mean? There's different services out there for different things. And I think just having that platform now, it makes us a little less mindful of how we process our problems and how we cope, because things are at the touch of a button or at the top, you know what I mean, at the tip of our hands, which I think sometimes, I don't want to lose the thought of where I'm going, sorry, but you know, it's like sometimes when you've got too much in front of you, it's like having a sat nav then, you know, driving in the car and you've got the sat nav and it's on constantly to the point where you're driving around areas that you actually know, but because the sat nav says take a left, you're going to take that left. Yes. You know what I mean? And it's all of a sudden you're not listening to your own thoughts, or you're not. I
feel like compared to back in the day where you'd have to look at a map and point each other and be more interactive, like a person in the car or with yourself. Which, if you ask me, I think back in the day, you'd have to be really good at geography and compass work and all of that. Compared to now, where sometimes you don't even bother reading the road signs. You're just listening to this machine guide you because you have so much faith that it's leading you where you're trying to go. That's just crazy.
Yeah, so sorry, I was just using that like a, you know, just sometimes that's brilliant to have that there, the sat nav there, but sometimes we really have to get back to the basics of learning and understanding ourselves and knowing what, and you know, what we can do, what we will do, and yeah, so yeah, that was just a thought. So I thought that was I liked what we were talking about there. And then, so when we're feeling this way, I mean, for example, if you were feeling, or when you're feeling low or not in the best headspace, who do you turn to for help?
Not gonna lie to you, as I was saying earlier, recently I definitely said to myself that, you know what, although my process works, it doesn't always work. Like, I feel like it does work over a long duration of time, but it does also work because now I've gotten to a place where I now communicate. I've put it in my head that, you know, if I'm going through this and I'm keeping it to myself, and I think what really opened my eyes to like mental health and emotional well-being was losing a friend to suicide during the lockdown, thinking to myself, had we just spoken a lot more, you would have heard, you would have noticed. But we're just so used to only wanting to talk to your friends or your mates when it's something laughable or it's entertaining. How about opening up and being like, guys, I haven't been able to eat properly in a long time. Like recently, I've started, like my friends started to open up to me about these things. And I'm like, I thought you were gymming. So it's actually a struggle for you. Do you get me? And it's like, I'm happy because I have made myself the available friends that they know. Call me and I will pick up. And you could just have your whole rant and cry. We'll cry together, and it's a really good thing. So I feel like, although I'm looking into like support groups and therapy and all of those things, being able to have a friendship group where when you're vulnerable, they don't make you feel judged. They don't make you feel weak. They listen. They, and they trust you with their vulnerability too. They're not just there to take, your weak points. They show you that, I'm also human. I'm also dealing with that. I feel like that's definitely helped me. That's definitely helped me a lot. That's one of the things I do that helps me. I try not to, because I do poetry and Yeah.
I love it.
The thing with poetry is you put so much emotion down on paper that I remember the one time I was in a really, really, really bad place, and I'd literally woken up one day, and from the minute I just got off my bed, all I did was cry. I didn't even know why, and I just wrote, and like I think I wrote 6 poems in one day, and like I kept it's like I'd write one, I'd read it, and I'd write the second one about how the first one made me feel, and I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse. So it's just like, although you can use art, any form of art really, to express yourself and get it out there and share it with other people.
Totally.
Yeah.
And as a musician, as a singer-songwriter myself, you know, at a young age, I started writing poetry, and that was my way of just kind of jotting down 2 words about how I felt. I didn't really do the diary thing in the beginning, you know, and I think as using the arts and being able to, I don't know, because I find that sometimes I'll write a song when I'm in a bad place, and then it's, you know, you go through the whole I'll go through the whole process of writing the song, getting it recorded, and I'm in that emotion all the way through that process, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's recorded and it's gone, it's almost like, you know, when you write a letter to yourself,
Yeah.
or you write to yourself and then you light it and you burn it. It's almost like I've got it off my chest. You know what I mean? I've got it out of my head and out there for anybody to interpret or take it on board as how, you know, if it resonates with you, it resonates with you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I've got it off my chest. I don't know, with poetry, is it the same kind of thing for yourself?
Oh, it definitely is. Like my friend is a producer and director for a radio show in South Africa, and every end of the month, she's got like a poetry thing that she does on Instagram Live. So you send her poems and she reads it and they talk about it. And being able to send, because I'm not gonna lie, not all my poems are all, you know, most of my poems are about really touchy subjects. Like when I read it to people, they just like tense up a little bit. But what they don't understand is like I feel a sense of release, because it took me ages for people apart from my siblings to read my work. It took me ages to get into a place where, because I felt bare, to be honest. It was like I was stripping myself, letting you see what's going on inside me. So it definitely helps. I do feel that sense of like I'm releasing this thought or this burden so that someone else can hold it and pass it on to someone else. And we're all just, you know, we're all just seeing it and, you know, translating it however we please, whether it starts a conversation or it spikes a thought process that you probably never had. It's quite amazing to see. It's quite amazing to see.
Oh, it's been so lovely talking to you, Jemima, seriously. I hope that we get to talk, you know, in the future again.
Yes, I hope we get to talk more, collaborate even more. Yes.
So, yeah, moving on to the last PowerPoint, I believe it is. Join the conversation and get support. So as we were saying, in terms of, you know, reaching out to whether it's organizations, services, where would your, you know, like, for example, if for whatever reason art wasn't able to, you know, your arts wasn't able to kind of help you through that mindset at the time, which avenue would you take? Where would you go for help? Where would you personally go for help?
Crazy enough, mind. I have gone looking into mind. Literally, I've gone looking into mind. And it wasn't more so for mine. It was more so, obviously, after my friend had committed suicide and, you know, the whole thing, I was in a mind state where I wanted to know the signs. I wanted to understand. So I went looking into mine. They sent me, a few pamphlets of like, you know, how to support them, how to, you know, because some people, they have mental health issues and they don't want to talk to professionals about it. They feel like, you know, this person, this complete stranger, what are you going to tell me that's going to help me? So they're also going to talk to me more than they're going to talk to someone else. So obviously, I went looking into mine. It was definitely helpful. It was definitely helpful. So I'd say I also did go to the GP one time for myself, and she recommended me like an online, manner of doing it and like talking, because it was during the pandemic and everything. But yeah, I say if you don't know how to go online and get it, go to your GP and call them up and tell them. They
Yeah.
will direct you within the right, pointing in the right direction.
Totally. And that was where I was going to say, basically, the GP should kind of be your first point of call, just to make sure that, what you're experiencing or what you're feeling, once he's spoken to you, we can actually make sure that it's nothing, what you're feeling is a normal process. I'm not saying any mental health is normal, but you know what I mean, just to make sure that it's not a biological situation, or something where you may need to be referred to a specialist, or where you may need to be prescribed medication in that sense. You know what I mean? So it's good to always go there first, just so that they it just gives you that relief to know that, I'm not going off my head. I'm not losing my mind. It's a natural process. It could be a hormonal change, depending on, whether it's a menstrual cycle. It could be other issues, in terms, in regard to females and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a perfect one. Mind is fabulous. Obviously we have the Heal Hub, Road to Recovery with ourselves, which I'm learning now every day. It's there's so many counsellors and therapists within the database that are there to help from all walks of life, that can tap into everything from anxieties to sexual orientations, having disorders, personality disorders and all sorts. So there's loads of them on there. And then also for out of hours, for example, if it was a case of, in the middle of the night, you need to speak to somebody, you could also contact Samaritans and stuff like that. And it is generally they're there to just kind of support you in the there and then, that present moment. And then, and so they'll talk to you, try and guide you through any crisis that you may be going through. But going back to what you were saying about losing a friend to suicide, which I'm so sorry to hear, for the age group that you are, you could also have gone to an organisation called Edwards Trust, who help to support young people that are surviving through bereavements and stuff like that as well. So from the work that I've done in schools with the young people that I was working with, we referred one of the young ladies there, and she had lost her father. So they were really helpful in providing support and guidance as to what steps to take, and like to take those baby steps, like each day at a time, and just trying to provide somebody that you can talk to on a one-to-one. Is there anything you would like to ask me, Jemima? Anything you can think of in relation to what we're about?
I think I just want to point out a lot of things. First and foremost, I just want to say it so whoever watches this hears it. There is nothing embarrassing about taking care of your emotional well-being or your mental health. If you've got issues, everybody has them. I feel like there's bravery in being able to like accept that and let people see that you've accepted it. Whether you're doing it in the personal confinements of your home or personal space or out in public, and you're like, yes, I've got ginger hair, or yes, I'm, a plus size girl and I like it, that type of thing. Whether it's whatever it is, I did have one person text me, open up to me, and they were like, no, I'm just like so embarrassed that I've got to take antidepressants. And I said to them, there is nothing. You're brave because you went out, you said, I have this issue and I am going to fix it. Do you know how many people are still living in denial, telling themselves, it's a very normal thing, So that's one thing I want to put out there and say, that there's bravery and there's nothing, it's complete boldness. You have to be really bold and brave to face your issues head on like that. And there's nothing embarrassing of having things that you need to obviously work through and deal through and adjust to. And I just want to know, I feel like the older generation, and no offense to my mom and dad, but yes, the older generation, and sometimes African or traditional, very traditionally orientated people, like adults, when I talk about mental health, it's just like, pray about it. Like, I'm a Christian, yes, and I can definitely pray about it, but God helps those that help themselves. Did you get what I mean? So it's like, I think to myself, do you have anything to like say as to why people are still stuck in that, backwards thinking that, you can click your fingers and you'll be all good. You're choosing to be sad. You're choosing to be affected by this issue. You're choosing to let that, like, in a sense, yes, but like, why am I choosing that? How can I help myself not choose that? That's a whole process I need to be going through. But by you telling me, just stop being sad, like, I don't really understand why, but I've always had that issue with, like, sometimes my mom or my dad or any adult for a matter, when I'm just like, I'm not in a mood, I'm going through something, they're like, well, you're choosing to be in a mood. You're choosing to be going through it. Like, you could literally choose to not be in a mood. And I'm like, that's not really how it works. But
it doesn't. Yeah, it's just that generational, the difference there in terms of how they've been brought up and everything as well. And it's funny how you've mentioned, and I know we're getting close to time, but the fact that you mentioned faith, I mean, I don't know, we have another platform on point, which this is going to be one of the subjects tomorrow, where they're going to be talking about how does faith, sorry, what was the question again? Does having faith keep you safe? And it's a topic that we're bringing to the young people as well. So I'm just so glad that you touched on that as well, because sometimes, yes, it brings you that community spirit and it gives you that, that extended family kind of thing. And at the same time, it can also hinder you with some of those thoughts, the thought process that comes from being a Christian or being a Muslim, or, you know what I mean? Because tradition sometimes kind of hinder us. And that's within the African, Caribbean, Asian, Asian cultures. It's a lot of pressure on somebody to admit sometimes that they're not as strong as they thought or whatever, because it comes down to, well, if you're praying, if you're, you know what I mean, if you're a good family person, and all these factors that they seem to think contribute to it. Yes, it adds, but it's not the end and be all. Somebody being from a religious background doesn't mean they're going to have less stress. You know what I mean? So, I thank you for that.
I feel like, I want to say, normalize having these conversations in your friendship groups. Normalize it. Normalize talking. Normalize vulnerability. Let's start there. Normalize vulnerability. And honestly, thank you to Life Proof, because it brings, people from two different places in life, two different eras of life, to have this conversation. And it's very interesting what you get. So please just follow our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, follow us, jump into the DMs, ask any questions, tell your friends, share these videos around, and normalize these conversations. Your best friend could be going through something and you wouldn't even know it. Like, that's the reality of it right now.
So true. And I love that as a caption now. Normalize vulnerabilities,
Yes. Normalize vulnerability.
I'm going to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Thank you, Jemima. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Life Proof, for the platform. And let's continue to normalize our vulnerabilities and be unique in our uniqueness. And I'll say goodbye at that point. So have a lovely evening, everybody, and I will speak to you soon.
Bye, guys. Thank you for your time.